Welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. My name is Benny. That is Sal. And today, we're going to talk about Kevin Conroy's career. He meant quite a bit to both of us in our childhoods. And if you were unaware, recently he passed away. I believe it was Saturday night.
Yeah.
We'll go a little bit more into that. You know, I'm not even going to do an ad today because I don't feel like this. No, we're not even going to do it. We're just going to go to the video because this is not a video I think should be plugged with extra ads and stuff. We have plenty of videos for that. So for those who don't know, he passed away. It seemingly was from cancer, from what I could find. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just finally took its toll on him.
Yeah.
So I hit up Sal since we've been doing Bat Watch, and I thought it'd be kind of nice if we talked about what Kevin Conroy really meant to us, because we both kind of grew up in the era of the Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
So, you know, I felt this would kind of be a nicer one, and I chose one episode of Batman the Animated Series because I thought it would emphasize just how powerful he was as Batman. So let's talk about that first.
Sure.
Do you want to describe the episode, Sal?
Oh, yeah, Legends of the Dark Knight. It's from season 3. It was an episode that featured the new animation style, and it was centered around 3 kids. And I always remembered it being 3 vantage points, but it only ended up being 2.
I thought it was 3 too. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was like, "Where's the third story?"
Yeah, just nah. The third story was just the kid being like, "He's a vampire," and I'm like, "Okay, that's enough. I guess that's good." And then Bruce Timm got to do a whole movie about that called Gods and Monsters. But in this one, it's just about 3 kids and their different interpretations of Batman. One thinks that he's like an otherworldly creature. Another thinks that he's the Dick Sprang, like classic, I think, Gold and Silver Age, Silver Age version of Batman. And then we have the young lady who's the Dark Knight Returns fan. And as a result, they get to perform at least 2 different versions of Batman, which are basically just adaptations of classic Batman comics. One of them is like a classic Joker story in the Dick Sprang style, where it's like everybody plays. Every character is played by a different voice actor, and the style is entirely in that style of animation. Which
they're even drawn up to look like that classic, like Silver Age. Like Joker's got the more pointy hair and the like more angular face. Batman's like the overly buff guy. Yep. I love the line of using old chum. Where even the kids are like what?
They're like, why would he say that? Yeah, it's great. And the eye, not coloring in the eyes on the regular guy. But yeah, it's a great episode if like you are a fan of like classic Batman or Batman's history. It was also the first time we got to see The Dark Knight Returns like animated in any way, and that was a big deal. I remember as a kid being like, this is awesome.
Right, that was the second story.
That was the second story.
Carrie tells the story about how she's the Robin in the future against the mutants. And what I liked about that was how close it really was to that future in the comics. Like, as much as you can make it for regular TV. And I found that to be, I was like, I don't remember this being so accurate.
No, it's actually like a clever pastiche of like a couple of scenes. Like, we can't show Batman shooting a mutant, but we can morph it. Like, Carrie's not at the junkyard scene. We merge both junkyard scenes into one sequence. Like, it is, you could tell that the people who wrote and directed and animated this episode loved The Dark Knight Returns, and of course that's no secret. I mean, Bruce Timm was spearheading the 2-part movie adaptation they did later down the road. And then it's actually bookended by like the fact that Gotham City is plagued by mysterious fires, which of course are being committed by Firefly, oft unused Batman villain because he's so unremarkable.
I mean, he's just a guy with flamethrowers. That's literally all he is. And he happens to have a jetpack.
Right, like he's kind of insect-themed. He's so unremarkable that they didn't worry about killing an entire movie featuring him as the villain. So yeah, it's just a little thing. And then the real Batman shows up and the kids get to see him, and he does shades of all the things that the kids interpreted, except for Joel, the Joel Schumacher send-up that shows up in the middle of the episode, which is hilarious. There's this moment where the kids are walking, and you have to understand like where we were at that time, like.
That's what that was.
Yeah, he's Joel Schumacher.
I didn't even catch that. I was like, what an odd placement of the obviously flamboyantly gay kid. Like, it was just weird to throw him right in the middle of the episode like that.
Yeah, you have to understand like where we were at the time. Of course, Batman, the animated series, came out in 1992. It was made specifically to cash in on Bat Fever because of Batman 89. Right. And then Batman Returns, then Batman the Animated Series. So that series comes out, of course it wins Emmys and it blows the doors off of the industry and changes the game. But then they kept making more Batman movies, and the next one was Forever, and then Batman and Robin. We were between, I think, Forever and Robin at that point, and so as a result, we were kind of like, oh no, the movie franchise is dead. At least we have the cartoon, and so they had this moment where they're like, let's make fun of Joel Schumacher by having like an overly flamboyant kid playing with a feather boa and talking about Batman's tight rubber armor and his stupid
and he was like
car.
twisting his hair. I'm like, that felt so out of place.
Now, that being said, it wasn't necessarily. I don't think that what they were doing was actually a gay send up so much as it was they were making fun of Joel Schumacher, because if you ever watch his interviews, he does that. Like, he does play with his hair a lot, and he does. I don't know. He's very into Batman's physicality. Let's put it that way. And so that was a little moment that, like, I think was kind of relegated to the time from which it came, and doesn't really age as well today because people are like, I don't even know what that means. There's been like 3 Batman reboots since then. So, but it's a fun little moment, and it's a fun little episode that but all the kids get to see a different version of Batman that like plays to the sensibilities of themselves. Of course, like, there's a little kid, so he sees it as the Dick Sprang Batman. There's the
is for those who don't know, Dick Sprang Batman's more the 70s Batman, 60s, 70s,
50s, 60s,
50s, 60s, over the top. Hey, what's going on? I'm here to save the day, kind of an attitude.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where it's like Joker is breaking into a music factory, and of course they have giant, fully working pianos, harps, and stuff. Like that's just the Dick Sprang style.
No, it's a music museum.
Music museum, there you go. Yeah. With priceless violins, which Batman throws a man through. So, like, great. Because Joker's going to steal an old composition. I'm like, there's no way that the cost of the damage to this place is equal to the value of the thing that he was going to steal in the first place. But okay.
I mean, just as a fun little side note, isn't that kind of the plot of White Knight? Like,
yeah.
We've crossed that line. You're causing too much damage.
Oh, no, that's every smart alecky teenager armchair complainer is just like, Batman should just get therapy and give all of his money to social programs. Wow, what a boring book you just pitched.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was it.
The big reason I picked this episode, though, is because for Sal and I, we grew up on the Batman the Animated Series. Batman the Animated. I always say Batman. I don't know why I've been adding that.
No, well, because they call him the Batman. It was actually the first time I ever heard anyone call him the Batman was in that cartoon. And in fact, we're actually a really like rare case, because for most of the viewers of this show, you live in a post Batman the Animated Series world. We lived in a time pre and post where it's like there was no. The only way I could see Batman in a cartoon was if I watched. Realistically, because there was a Batman animated series that came out before that, which was like not great, but Batman appearing in Scooby-Doo crossovers.
Yep,
I think there's at least 2 of those. There's not a lot of Batman animated stuff that like is interesting or fun. I grew up on the Adam West show for a lot of live action Batman.
Well, so did I. That's what I was going to get to. And then this was kind of the more grounded Batman for me. Yes. That really got me like to really fall in love with Batman as a whole.
Absolutely, I wasn't old enough to see Batman in movies.
Because you and I grew up with the show. We grew up with Kevin Conroy as our Batman.
Exactly.
Which is why I wanted to bring this show in, because he only does like 2 lines at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
But when you put him in his own show against 2 other Batmen, it just really emphasizes when he arrives, he's here. Like, that is your Batman. These guys did great, but this is the Batman I wanted.
Well, and they all represent extremes, because you got like the very campy, fun Batman who's an adventurer, and then you have the Frank Miller Batman. And Kevin Conroy's portrayal in that season particularly is him kind of blending the two, where he is not just a humorless monster, nor is he a goofy crime fighter.
Right.
So you have like Michael Ironside's gravelly, dark, perfect voice for The Dark Knight Returns, and then you had, I don't remember the guy's name from
Gary Owens.
Gary Owens playing like the over the top. Yeah, but not coast to coast, the old Space Ghost.
Right. And so then at the ending, we get back to Kevin Conroy, which always kind of fell into like this perfect middle ground of all the different versions of Batman. And that's why I wanted to bring this episode up as the one we discussed today, because it really emphasizes, because we know how Kevin Conroy sounds. That's the whole point. For me, going back to what you said originally with Kevin Conroy, it was one of those situations where Kevin Conroy was just kind of always the Batman for me. He was Batman. I grew up on the Adam West 60s shows. My dad, brother, and I would sit down and we'd watch the Adam West shows. They were great. We liked them. Yeah. But I was also a kid.
Right.
And so as I get older, Batman's for kids. I don't want to do nothing with Batman.
And
but
a kid in the
series,
90s where it's like, this is lame. Like, this is silly and stupid. Like, I want something that's going to, like, kind of speak to my budding sensibilities as a like, young adult, like, pre-adolescent, where it's like, you gravitate towards stuff that's, like, darker. And the Batman animated series came at that time where it was like, this has changed everything. It changed perceptions. It informs who Batman is, and then redefine the character for people, for an entire generation at least. And that's what I meant by, like, we live in a pre and post world. Like, everybody else who grew up after 92 already had the perfect Batman.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that, like, when we were here, there were other Batmen. Conroy's Batman came, and he was always the perfect Batman. Like, it never was like, oh man, I kind of have I have a lot of preference for this one. No, he comes in and then defines Batman, and then and every time that they, like, strayed away, it was weird and it wasn't as good.
I mean, the fact that he's repeatedly been invited back to be Batman just tells you how much of a place he held as Batman.
Completely.
I mean, we're not in a situation where, he did his time and then we never heard from him again.
No.
Kevin
and
Conroy
came
back multiple times, and he would always say, "This is my last Batman performance," and then do Batman again.
Right? Like, he was Batman in Justice League Action.
Yeah.
He
was Batman.
Years.
He was Batman in the CW crossover.
Yes. Yeah,
but he was Batman in the Arkham series. A lot of the more modern day, younger audience who loves the Arkham series, that's their Batman, because we had him in the cartoon, but then he became Batman in the Arkham franchise. Like,
yeah. I would argue that more people know Kevin Conroy as Batman than have ever read a comic book. Like, if you combine the show, which was a phenomenon of its time, and then the video game, which was a video game, so it had an unbelievable, unparalleled reach, you have two titanic examples of multimedia, displays of the character, and they're both displayed by Kevin Conroy. And
I verified. I thought it was true. He's also Batman in the Injustice franchise.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So,
oh my God.
He's Batman in anything that's hit the high notes,
right? Yeah.
He's been very selective what he'll be Batman in, it seems.
He was Batman,
and he's made really good choices.
He was Batman in the DC Universe Online cinematics.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so, like, he's always been Batman, or at least, and that's the thing, is that with Conroy, I know that, like, in interviews and with discussions he's had, like, he was very precious about the character, and he really, really cared about the integrity of the character. I was just actually reading a tweet from a fellow podcaster who used to have, like, a lot of Batman animated series players on his show, and they would record, like, cutesy little advertisements, like fake in-universe advertisements for his show.
Okay.
And he asked Conroy to record a cutesy fake commercial as Batman. And Conroy read the script and was like, I think this is very funny, but I politely decline because Batman wouldn't do this.
Right.
And it was
he was always Batman.
Yeah.
I pulled up the history. He's repeatedly, and I remember over and over, he would say, I'm done with Batman. But he has played Batman in something from 1992.
Yeah.
From 1993.
92.
92 is when the show started.
Yeah.
Until 2019.
He's been Batman now. Like, he was Batman in 2022. Like,
that was the movie. That was his last movie.
Right.
But he's Batman in Multiverses. As a matter of fact, in Multiverses, you can get an announcer. You can change the announcer voice. He's the only one that I bought. I got Kevin Conroy's announcer pack.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, 30 years he's played Batman. And, I few actors can boast that kind of prolific career, but more importantly, like, it's not enough that, it's like Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. It's like, wow, that's awesome. You got to play Wolverine for like 10 years or 20 years. I think it's 20. But
nothing tops Kevin Conroy's 30-year stint, though.
Nothing beats Conroy.
And he, like I said, he picked so many iconic things. If somebody grew up, because, I mean, you got to think when all these games and shows and stuff came out, he has been Batman for everybody at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
He pretty much invented the idea of, like, Bruce Wayne and Batman being kind of separate voices, so they stand out.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone before that did that before him.
No,
because Michael Keaton just was Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I want to say Adam West actually did it a little bit, but only in as much as he hammed it up when he played Batman.
Right.
But I had never noticed the duality until Conroy portrayed it. Like, there's a great sequence, every sequence where he plays Bruce Wayne, he is playing a part, and he's just like, he's so soft and affable, and it's just so weird when he is Bruce Wayne, or he's playing Bruce Wayne out of Batman's mouth. That's when it's like, what the hell? It's like two different actors are playing him.
Right.
So great.
So, I mean, that's pretty much all we wanted to do today. Just talk about like how much he meant to us. I never thought of Batman as anyone else but him. As a matter of fact, and I just thought of it when you brought it up, but whenever somebody else would play the role in a movie, I would always be like, who's this guy? Like, that's
right. That's not Batman.
That's not Batman. Who is this?
That's not Batman. It's yeah. And then what's incredible, and this speaks to like just the talent involved, but how when they made Batman Beyond, they managed to bridge that gap and still maintain quality. Like, all I could think of is just Joker throwing bombs in the Return of the Joker movie, and he's yelling at Terry, and he just says, "You're not Batman." I'm like, "Oh," but yeah, man. He defined who Batman was. He informed the character so much. He infused a lot of like depth and pathos into, not just Bruce Wayne, but Batman. Like, and thankfully, he was given some terrific, top-notch work to go along with it. It wasn't just like, he didn't write them, but he did add more, and it was just like, thanks to the that show is a phenomenon. That show like is unparalleled. It's funny how many great shows, like how many awesome superhero animated shows we have from that era, and yet how Batman came first and also never was beaten. Like everybody loves the X-Men animated series, but Batman the animated series still beats it.
Well, like every one of those shows, other shows that we love, I can't think of the actors, the voice actors. Kevin Conroy just went beyond just being Batman. Even though he was only Batman for 30 years, you knew who Kevin Conroy was because of his portrayal.
Oh, I remember as a kid, like, I never had an opinion about who played Batman, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember reading later about all the controversy surrounding Michael Keaton being chosen for Batman. I remember them changing him to Val Kilmer, and the only way I knew that was because I saw Batman Forever. Like, I was in the theater, and I'm like, oh, it's not Michael Keaton. Like, that was when I noticed. But after Kevin Conroy, I was like, why can't he play Batman from now on? Like,
right.
How come he can't play Batman? And I saw like a picture of him, and I'm like, that's fine. Yeah, whatever. He'll be Batman. Like,
The best part is, even as he got older, like, he sounded like an older Batman, but he still could do Batman. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the fun thing. Like, I remember as a kid who then inherited The Dark Knight Returns and, loved that series, being like, man, this is awesome. When he's older, he can play Batman in this. Like, they can do this someday. Still a crime they didn't do that, but at least they did think of doing it for The Killing Joke, which I have my problems with that interpretation, but, like, the intent is there. Like, I get why, they picked Hamill and Conroy to do The Killing Joke. I only wish that they had done it back during the animated series.
Right.
Because Mark Hamill sounds a little old. Conroy actually sounds a little younger than Hamill in that movie.
So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the only time he got to portray Batman on screen. It was the CW Crisis, and that was the highlight of their Crisis event.
Yes.
Seeing an older Batman.
Yeah.
And I've seen interviews where he was just excited to do it because he never thought he would get to play an on-screen Batman.
Right?
Because he's like, by the time I was known as Batman, I was too old to be Batman on screen. So I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if you look at the interviews, you can just see the joy in his face that he gets, even though he doesn't wear the suit. We all know he's Bruce Wayne and he is Batman.
At least he gets to wear, at least he is synonymous with the iconography from a like classic version of Batman. Like he's wearing the Kingdom Come bio armor thing.
Right.
It's not Kingdom Come.
It was missing the jaw that makes it really stand out.
Yeah, I wish he'd had that, but at the same time, it would inhibit his performance. And if you look closely, it's just the bottom half of Vader's helmet. So it would have been infringing.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
If you look at his thing, it's just Vader's helmet, which is just Alex Ross being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. If you look at Kingdom Come, by the way, just look, you'll find hidden Rorschachs throughout, by the way. But anyway. I did not watch most of that CW's Crisis show, but you better believe I watched that Kevin Conroy episode. There's actually a great like harbinger of that in a like I think Tim Daly, the voice of Superman and star of Wings, he had like a web series with his son for a while. Do you remember did you watch any of that?
No.
It was weird, but it was like fun.
I've seen Wings and I know Tim Daly, but
right, yeah, I know Tim Daly. Well, he had a web series with his son, and in one of the episodes, Kevin Conroy came over, and Batman, Superman, and they like fight or whatever, and it's a really fun sequence, and it's worth checking out because you get to see Kevin Conroy like be Batman.
Right.
Have you ever met Kevin Conroy? Did you ever meet him?
I never got a chance to, no.
No.
I didn't get in any of the lines. 'Cause I don't normally do the signing kind of stuff. So
I know, but in our line of work, you'd think that would have happened.
Yeah, I never crossed paths. I mean, I met Susan Eisenberg, who played Wonder Woman. I met Tara Strong, and I know their names in the industry, but never met Kevin Conroy. Never met Mark Hamill either. Would have loved to have. Would have been one of the few times I tell everyone, like, I don't normally get too starstruck, but there are certain instances where that'll happen. Yeah. And I feel like Kevin Conroy would have been one of them. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, he's a lovely guy. He was a lovely guy. It was great meeting him, like the twice I did, once for a signing, once for an event. And he was super friendly, super awesome. He got to sing, which was like a rare treat. And it was awesome.
I do want to talk about one more thing about him real quick.
Yeah.
And I don't know the full story, so I'm going to pull it up. But
okay.
He was actually, he wrote a story in the DC Pride story.
Yes.
And that made me aware. I did not realize that he had basically... I don't know the full story, but I didn't realize that he was gay this whole time. I didn't realize that at all.
My wife didn't know either. Like, we were talking, and I mentioned that he... I
was trying to think of the proper verbiage for the whole thing.
Yeah. No, he was survived by his husband, and she was like, he was gay.
Yeah, well, I knew that from the Pride announcement because he wrote his autobiography in it, which they're going to be re-releasing as like a separate thing now. So
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'd heard about it. Like, I'd heard rumors...
I don't think it was ever hidden. I just don't think he was open about it. Like, he had no reason to discuss it.
No, they said that he was. It's actually kind of funny because, like, I remember reading recently, they said that he was out, and I didn't know that. But he's also fiercely private.
Yeah,
so
I didn't know anything about his private life at all, other than he's Batman and he likes doing Batman, and that's that.
That's the thing. Like, I didn't like he was so precious about his character, about the character of Batman, that all he did, like, whenever he got out in public and had the limelight, he would talk about it through the lens of playing Batman.
Right, which is why I wanted to bring this up, because he held that, like, he was out, but he got kind of like held it all in this entire time with everything going on, the way the world has changed, and he always maintained, I'm Batman. I'm
right. And I think that I mean, when he first played Batman in 1992, it may have affected his acceptance when he was playing Batman. Like,
I could have seen it back then in the 90s.
It would never have changed how he played Batman. Like, it would not have. In fact, if you read that Pride story, like, it talks about how, like, the life that he led in the 50s and 60s, being gay and not being able to be himself, helped to find a version of Batman that he could play. And we're fortunate enough that he had that unfortunate, like, hardship in his life.
That's kind of what I wanted to get at, because I talked about at the beginning how he did a great job of being Bruce Wayne, and then basically the concept of Bruce Wayne or Batman, one of them is the mask.
Yeah.
And I feel like his whole life, like the way he grew up, is how he got that mentality to do that. Because I legit can't think of anything before Batman the Animated Series that we really looked at it as Bruce Wayne or Batman. One of them is the mask. He's not both. One is hiding the other.
Exactly. No, it was certainly, it was never articulated in such a, like, subtle but approachable way. Like,
right.
I swear I didn't know. Like, as a kid, I thought that Bruce Wayne was played by a different voice actor. Like, for a little while, I was like, it was so different.
I never thought about it, in all honesty. It just never came up to me.
I was a big nerd as a kid. I was like, oh, who plays who? I was like, oh, wow, Luke Skywalker's playing the Joker. Like, oh, the Bull from Night Court is playing Two-Face. You know, like, I cared about that kind of nerdy crap, even as a small child. And I have a real ear for sound and for voices. And so, like, when it's different, it bothers me. Like there's the Mystery of the Batwoman movie. The guy who plays Penguin is not playing Penguin. They got a different guy, and I'm like, what the hell's happening? It blew my mind. So I really appreciated Kevin Conroy's consistency in that regard. But also, just he was the master, man. He nailed it. Like, yeah. And always maintained like an air of integrity and like grace. Like every time that he went out in public, there's a rare moment where I got to, I didn't get to interview him. My wife got to interview him, but I facilitated the interview, and we're backstage, and it's late. It's New York Comic Con. It's very late, and we're like the last ones, and he was like, you could tell he was tired because like everybody was tired, and he had been doing things like all day. And he kind of Batmaned up a little bit, where there was this moment where he's talking to somebody, like I think his handler, and he goes, "Is this it?" And she was like, "No, there's like several more." And he goes, "Okay, hi," and he just became Kevin Conroy, right. Like you know what I mean? But he maintained this professionalism and this integrity. And if you ever watch that interview, like it was years ago, but it was still like. It's fun and infectious and powerful, and you wouldn't know that he was tired. Like he just immediately like he rallied and he just went for it, and it was for like a dinky YouTube interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he still treated it with the same level of respect and attention that he would treat any project that he was on.
I mean, he managed to, in the 30 years of being Batman, avoid every controversy, every problem. He wasn't a part of anything. You never heard his name come up in a negative light.
Nope.
It was always positive. There wasn't even wow, he blew up at a con. Like, oh, they didn't even get that kind of a thing. Like, no. I never heard anyone at all speak ill of Kevin Conroy.
No.
And everyone else you could think of, you could always find that one, this guy did this here, and this guy did this. Even if they're a great person, they had that one incident that happened forever ago.
A couple of Batman cast members we mentioned, I had a very unpleasant experience with them, despite their reputation being like lovely and incredible. It was exactly the opposite, but never for Kevin. Kevin Conroy was a class unto himself, and his peers all loved him. Like Susan Eisberg spoken only like affectionately about him. Tara Strong, Mark Hamill. Everybody loves him. Everybody loved, and everybody was like happy to work with him. We were lucky to have him, and I feel fortunate that we lived in a time when we didn't know about him. He played like a receptionist on a Murphy Brown episode. He was in Dynasty. These are things that for a small child like Benny and myself would never have noticed. So for us, never do it. He just appeared one day as a voice that came out from the blue and made us fall in love with Batman. And
I chalk up him and the animated series to being why I love Batman the way that I do now.
I go so far as to say
I have good memories of Adam West Batman with my family.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
But I don't think that would have been like, I'm going to get a tattoo of Batman from Adam West era. Like it didn't strike me that same way.
That's fair. Yeah, no. I would go so far as to say there's generations of people who love Batman because of that show. That like without that show, I don't think that the Batmania would exist to the degree it does. I think because Batman is like ingrained. It's like people having like people have.
WB has said the reason they made '89 so gritty is '60s Batman, as well as it was received, also kind of killed the franchise.
Right.
Yeah, they've said that like people couldn't look at Batman beyond that campy '60s show.
Yeah. Well, and we owe that show because like that show also managed to bridge the gap. We could have had like 30 years of the Batman movies defining who Batman is. The first two being like, so Batman's weird and really dark, and then not. Like, it's insane. With this show, it was like, Batman is grounded but fantastical, and they also went so far as to be like, Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, sure. But like, how about Ra's al Ghul? How about Man-Bat?
Clayface. How about Clayface? I love the portrayal of Clayface in there.
Scarface. Like, there's so many characters that they like fished out of the dumpster. Mr. Freeze. Characters that like either had no. They had no good stories.
I actually wonder why Scarface hasn't been used more. Like I always loved when Scarface was shown as a kid.
I love
that demented idea of never knowing if the puppet was really alive.
Yeah.
or if ventriloquist was crazy.
I know.
You never knew.
I love that idea, and I love the concept of that. That's a Matt Reeves movie, by the way. The Scarface, where it's like,
where they leave us wondering if it's Chucky or not.
Well, and I like the idea of there being like, well, that's another show, but like the show itself was like not afraid to give us a definitive edition of Batman, and also, oh, by the way, we're also going to define like your understanding of classic Batman villains and actually end up making them classic, because like. Top 4 Batman villains, Mr. Freeze is on most people's list, whereas pre-Batman animated series, not even top 10.
He wasn't sympathetic in any way, and it's the sympathetic nature of him that makes him
He was
worth it.
Goofy and boring. He was Captain Cold was more interesting than Mr.
He was
Freeze.
like a Mega Man villain.
He was a Mega Man villain. Exactly. But yeah, man, Kevin Conroy kept that. He was like the show doesn't work without the voice cast. I mean, the show works in so many different ways, and they nail it in every respect, but that casting is so next level, and Kevin Conroy is like the head of the top of the pyramid, who just like keeps it all together. Because it's all about him, right? If he doesn't work, none of it works. It doesn't matter if like, oh man, they got Ron Perlman to play Clayface. Yeah, well, but Batman sucks. You know what I mean? Like he keeps it together because it's always about him. It's through the lens of Batman most of the time.
But all right, I'm going to wrap us up here. As you can tell, he just meant a lot to us, and it's sad to see that he's passed on.
Yeah.
But at least we all have very fond memories and 30 years of Batman history to go through with him playing that voice.
No doubt. And I guarantee you that 30 years from now, he'll still be top 5, top 3 best portrayals.
You can't
of
do
Batman.
it for 30 years and not be remembered forever. I mean,
exactly.
Right now, the Gotham Knights has got everyone remembering what they loved about the Arkham franchise.
Right.
That's him. That's him.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna see. Yeah, you're gonna have like they do like remasters or like reskins of games. Like they're gonna redo Batman Arkham Asylum, and it's like, well, we have thousands of hours of Kevin Conroy being Batman. Every grunt, every yell, every line read. Like just reuse it.
But all right, guys, let us know what he meant to you in the comments down below, and I guess we'll see you at the next episode right here at Batwatch, where we'll get back to watching some more Batman cartoons. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.